Welcome to a new year of Great Valley Academy, and welcome parents of 8th graders as you start this last year with Great Valley Academy Salida, at least for this particular student. My name is Mr. Gilham, and this video is for any and all parents who weren't able to make it to back to school night. I will try to be quick because I know it's never fun to watch a super long PowerPoint video online. Tonight or today or whenever you're choosing to watch this, the information that we're going through real quickly, brief information about myself, contact information, attendance policy, uniform requirements, some general information. We're going to look at the year at a glance broken up by trimester, some parent involvement opportunities, expectations for students in the work. I'll see if I can pull up a copy of the report card into this video and talk about some of our standards and then the process for moving on to high school. And we will not have any questions and answers in this video as I am not live streaming it. You can always feel free to email Parent Square, snail mail, or if you want to use a telegraph, I'm sure I can track down some Morse code to figure out what your question is, but I am always willing to hear those questions. Okay, about myself. So this will be my second year at GVA, second year in 8th grade in English. Prior to that, I was a substitute, spent most of my time subbing for Great Valley Academy Modesto, but I subbed all grade levels, but spent most of my time in junior high. Graduated from CSU Stanislaus with a degree in Business Administration, simply because when I was going through the program and getting a degree, that was when we were having our educational woes in California, and so I needed kind of something to work until the teaching market came back. But I love American history, and am super excited about this year. I am a Navy veteran. I've served on board submarines and was a nuclear mechanic on board the USS Albuquerque. I also enjoy cooking and baking, do that far more frequently, and sad to say I am not a fan of sports. I will try to smile and nod as students talk about it, but I really know nothing about any of the current sports. As you'll see this image of the fish pig, that is an endearing nickname that I have. I got it back in boot camp, and I will allow students to call me that when we are not doing direct instruction, but work time. And just a simple explanation: fish have gills, ham and pig, so fish pig. Here's a picture of several pictures of my family. One important notice: this guy right here, the follically challenged bald gentleman, that would be myself. My wife, Grace Gilham, also teaches at Great Valley Academy in Modesto. She's in the 1st and 2nd grade loop. So, and I'll reiterate this when we get to the contact information slide. If you need to email me and you're not using Parent Square, please make sure it's b.gilham, not g.gilham. Think B as in boy for the boy Gilham, as opposed to the girl Gilham. And that will get to me. If you do g.gilham, that will go to the 2nd grade teacher in Modesto, and she may forward it on, but she will try to remember who it is to start with, and it's just a little more circuitous. So, communication. This is information that the office would like me to go over real quick, so I'm going to read this for you, even though I know that you're seeing it. Great Valley Academy, we know that a strong partnership with parents and school is key to unlocking each child's potential. We're committed to helping parents promote, monitor their child's academic progress, and participate in our school community and access support and resources to better serve their child. So that being said, we just want to make sure that we can communicate. Do this. Primarily, I will be using Parent Square, so if you are not in the Parent Square system, all of you should be at this point, but please contact Miss Barney up in the front office, and she will get you hooked up in Parent Square. That's the easiest way for me to get a hold of everyone or an individual. You can also use email. Once again, remember that's B Gilham for the boy Gilham. Again, not G. Alternate, we will have a class website. If you're watching this video, chances are you have found the website because that's where the video will be. But here's the address, and again, I'll send this out on Parent Square on Friday. which at this point is Friday or past Friday, so it's a moot point to say when I will pass it out. Also, Google Classroom. I cannot give you login information that's based on our credentials for our school emails. However, your students have access to it. Please check with them on getting information in. Also, if you would like updates, we can work that out. I try to keep those updates limited to students who need some extra support in getting material in. But if you would like the weekly notices on what's due through Google Classroom, we can get that set up. Also, green folders. These will go home on Wednesday. If you are in Mr. Avalos's homeroom, he will have his own green folder system set up. So my homeroom will get the green folders from myself, but we'll make sure that all of the information goes home. Attendance. School hours Monday through Thursday from 8:30 to 3:30 and Friday from 8:30 to 12. That's the time that class is in session. I'm in my classroom no later than 8. Students are more than welcome to come in. We've got some games and stuff that we're going to play that will build on our curriculum. Also kind of a fun way to keep our community upbeat and lively. Absences, please contact Miss Elena in the office as soon as you know that there's going to be an absence. Here's the email address, salida.attendance@greatvalleyacademy.com. An independent study, need a 3-day minimum for students to be gone. Must fill out a request form for approval 2 weeks in advance. And even though I know that your students are in 8th grade, the school policy is that you as the parent or guardian come in to walk to each teacher to get that form signed. So for 8th grade, you will have myself to sign it for English and History, Mr. Avalos to sign it for Math, and Mr. Potter will sign it for Science. And that needs to be done 2 weeks before your trip, so that way we can get the material together. And again, we just need to make sure that we can all sign that, and we've had a chance to speak with you about expectations while they're gone. I will try to keep my independent study work online. If that's going to be an issue, if you know that you're not going to have access to the internet, please let me know during that 2-week time, so that way I am not asking a student to do something that they won't be able to do. Also, I can try to get that material to you a little bit before you leave, so if you want to try to get that work done so you don't have to worry about it on the trip, we can work on that. But just need to make sure, again, we want to make sure that communication time. Uniforms. As you guys are in 8th grade, I don't believe we've got any new to 8th grade students or new to GBA 8th grade students this year, but just in case, you guys know the uniform requirements that's in the handbook that's going home. You guys are going to sign off, but just so we kind of go over this, shoes, they need to be athletic with Velcro or lace closures. Slip-on shoes don't work. Flip-flops don't work. Swimming flippers, even though they are athletic, do not have a lace-up thing, so just normal athletic shoes. Pants and shirts and skirts. Khakis for pants and skirts. Maroon polos with the GBA logo, and I'll go over where you can get that stuff. With the khakis, we need to make sure that they are true khakis, not just khaki-colored jeans. We need to make sure that the pockets are internal, not external. There's no rivets on them. We can't use those skinny jeans or khaki-colored leggings without something over them. And I'm not, let's see, no khaki-colored leggings at all. So that's, but if there are leggings that need to be underpants or skirts. With the uniforms, the first issue that there is, I'll send an email home so we can talk about it. If it continues to be an issue, we'll have to send students to the office in contact, and then you've got to bring stuff in, or they've got to use the spare stuff in the office. If by chance it's a uniform piece that the student has worn before and you feel like you're being blindsided, it's not our intent. We don't always catch everything the first time if there's an issue, and we understand that students are going through growth spurts and everything like that. So pants that may not have been air quotes skinny beforehand, as students grow they become skinny. We're not meaning to blindside, we just want to make sure everyone is in guidelines with the uniform. Non-GBA jackets are not permitted inside classrooms, so that will be something I let students know they need to take things off as they're coming in. If it's a GBA sweatshirt or jacket, it can be worn. Let's see. Oh, more uniform information. They can be purchased from Double Stitch in Manteca, Shirt World in Modesto, or French Toast, which is the online vendor. Birthday celebrations, and well, we'll lump in food and stuff like this. It says here end of school or during lunch or snack. Ideally, we're going to shoot for our snack time, which is recess. So for homeroom, it will be the very end of my class. For Mr. Avalos' homeroom, it will be before students get to me. We just want to make sure that we're getting something and it's not interrupting instruction. Also, we do ask that parents, you guys contact either myself or Mr. Avalos ahead of time, preferably at least 2 days, just so we can make sure that it's not it's not going to be a distraction for anything. And then also need to be semi-healthy. We're asking no super big sugary cupcakes or things like that. If you have questions, please feel free to ask before you guys go out. Invitations, this is generally something more for the younger grades that seem to happen in class, but they would still like us to talk about it. If they're passed out in class, or outside of the classroom, at school essentially, we need to make sure there's one for everyone in the class. If not, you can use evites to send out to specific students or something like that outside of class, but we just want to make sure that all students are feeling included. Let's see, discipline procedure. This is always subject to change. This is kind of the general guidelines, so it's a gentle reminder, a conversation with teacher. So I'll pull students aside or kind of address it immediately if there's an issue there with behavior. If it continues to persist, I may ask the student to go to another classroom. They'll go to Mr. Avalos or Miss Anderson or one of the other teachers in the junior high team, and then we'll have a debrief probably during break or lunch. If the issue if it's a repeat issue and it continues to go on, it'll be connecting room and a reflection form. And at this point, I'll make sure that depending on what the instance is, I will be communicating with you all along. But if it gets to a connecting room, you will definitely receive some kind of communication from me. Again, if the issue continues to persist, we'll talk with our admin, conversation or email home so parents are connected and know what's going on in the classroom. Again, that just want to make sure the conversation is going both ways. And I foresee more communication going home, just going over the great things the students are doing in class and not so much behavior issues, but just we want to let you guys know kind of the overall procedure. And depending on what the instance or what might happen, we might skip a couple steps just depending on the severity of what's going on. So year at a glance for trimester 1. Writing, we're focusing on informative and Genius Hour. In fact, Genius Hour will be our first culminating event. That will be an online culminating event towards the end of the trimester. Reading, we're going to be looking at Johnny Tremain and Sleepy Hollow. And we're going to be focusing on collections 1 and 2. I know you guys were introduced to collections last year. We're doing the 8th grade version of that. History, we're looking at the colonial period up through the Revolution. So we'll have our first project due in about a month with the colonial period. And with projects, we're probably looking at every 2 weeks, and I'll get into that with the work expectations. For our Greek and Latin roots, we're going to be doing roots 1 through 36 of the second year book. Again, most of the students at this point should be familiar with roots up, and we're just continuing on with that. Other important information, we do have Jogathon, and like I said, there will be an online culminating event. For trimester 2, we're going to be focusing on persuasive writing, and rather than doing a traditional 5-paragraph essay, we're going to look at some opportunities for students to write grants that would help our school, help our culture, and plus, as students are moving on to high school, writing grants, or successfully writing grants, will also look good on college applications a few years down the road. Reading, we're going to be looking at Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and we're also going to be doing literature circles. So these are going to be small groups in which students get to pick a book and they read, similar to a book club. We're going to be focusing on collections 4 and 5. This may change depending on just where we are with our history. I kind of like the reading to mirror what we're doing in history and back and forth. History, we're going to be focusing on the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and westward expansion. Our culminating event for trimester 2 will be an in-person one, and that will be a recreation or a reenactment of the signing of the Constitution. Greek and Latin, we're going to be looking at roots 37 to 72. Other important information, In January or around January, we should be having a field trip to Delta Charter. That's an invitation for all of our 8th grade students to go and do a preview day with this school, a chance for them to experience high school. We'll also be looking at a field trip to the state capitol. And that field trip should be in February. Trimester 3, we're going to be looking at persuasive writing, and students will be writing a graduation speech. All students will be writing a speech. Not all students will have to give it, and more information will come out as we get closer to that. We're also going to be looking at narrative writing. The project will probably be a short story, but again, it's third trimester, so I want to see where the interests of the class lie before we get there. Reading, we're going to be looking at Tom Sawyer and Tuck Everlasting, and we're going to be focusing on collections 3 and 6. For history, we're going to be looking at the Civil War, Reconstruction, and the Industrial Revolution. We're also going to be looking a little bit at World War II, specifically the Holocaust, because collection 6 is all about the Diary of Anne Frank. In fact, our culminating event for trimester 3 will be a video project in which students act out the play for Diary of Anne Frank. Greek and Latin, we're looking at routes 73 through 100. We're also looking at the DC trip if students are choosing to go. This is not a mandatory or required field trip, as it is expensive and multi-day. I believe it's a week and a half. More information will come out in another video on that for those of you who are unable to make it to the back to school night. High school letters, that's just the process of moving on to the high school, and some schools require it, some don't. Graduation and Great America will also be happening all in trimester. Parent involvement opportunities. So the biggest thing is to make sure that you're staying plugged in with Parent Square. I know sometimes it feels like there's just tons of Parent Square information coming out. I'll try to be very deliberate in what information I send out, because I know that many of you have students in other grades at our site, and so I want to make sure that we're not inundating your inbox, so that way you can keep on top of it. Also, keep on top of our class webpage, as that will be a good source of getting information out. Individual events, we'll be looking for chaperones, assistance with food, etc. I know that we're going to need some we'll need some parent help with our jogathon. We have 2 parties that we're going to be doing this year, one right before winter break, one at the very end of the year. So we'll need some help with food and things like that, and more information will come out for those individual events as they get closer. Personal expertise. Fridays, we're going to be looking at students working on the Genius Hour presentations, but I'd also like, if you feel that, or if you are an expert in a field, please communicate with me. I'd really love to bring in your expertise into the class, and just your skill set, to see where we can help you out, or we can use you in our class if you are willing and able. We also will need a classroom parent. Please be thinking about that. We'll try to get that nailed down in the first couple weeks of school. This will be the point person for volunteers, as well as helping out with end of the year events and mid-year events as well. Expectations. Students will come to class prepared. Every morning there will be on my door a list of what materials students will need to bring into class. I expect that students will participate, stay on task, and be respectful of themselves and others. A large portion of this class is group work. Students will not always get to pick their groups. Some will be random, some will be based on just students that I feel will work together, some will be based on different levels and things like that. But students will need to be able to work with everyone. I'm not asking that they always like who they have to work with, but I do want them to be respectful of everyone. With textbooks, students shouldn't have to bring textbooks home. The English textbook specifically is online, and if you do not have access to the internet, please communicate that with me so that we can work through some of the projects and things like that. Homework and projects. The homework every week, and there will be more information in your packet that will go home the first week of school. By and large, we're looking at 1 video a week that I'm going to be creating, much like this one, and students are going to have to take some notes. That way they can take the classroom time and work on projects, and I can make sure that I'm helping them and explaining any requirements that may not necessarily be as clear as I think that they are. again, the big homework will be watching one video a week and taking notes. That being said, there's a lot of projects. There are a few essays and things like that. As they get closer, students may need to be working on them at home. The homework due dates are meant so that way students don't feel bogged down with any project. My personal policy with homework and projects, or specifically projects and essays, is that once the student turns it in, I give them my feedback. I encourage them. Not only are they free to, I really want them to go back, revise, and resubmit. They will have, say if a project is due the first month of school, they will have every opportunity to revise and resubmit multiple times up until 2 weeks before the end of the trimester. 2 weeks before the end of the trimester, that's my cutoff time, just because I need to make sure that I've got all the data that's in to get report cards and things like that. Group work, again, like I said, there will be groups. We'll go over some specific guidelines based on projects and based on groups in class, but just so that you're aware. There will be independent work, but students will be in assigned groups so that they can collaborate and bounce ideas off each other. Report cards. Let's see if I can get this link to work. And it is not working. I will upload a copy. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Moving on to high school. Each high school that we've talked with is different in their policy. For example, Grigori, there's a checklist that students need, or the parents need to initial and then have the students bring to the teacher, and we'll check off which classes we recommend students to go to and initial. Some of the schools in Manteca require a letter of recommendation for AP classes simply because they're not in the, you guys aren't necessarily in the filter schools to go in. So please check with which high school you are planning on having your students go to. Generally good idea before February, so that way we can start the process and you just know what the expectation is. I do ask for any documentation that you give me 2 weeks. I can't always fill out a letter and get it back to you guys the day of, even if you tell me, if a student tells me, I need to turn this in tomorrow so I can get into my high school. I don't necessarily have the time. So 2 weeks is the general policy. Chances are it will get done quicker, but I do ask the 2 weeks. That's just so I can make sure that I'm staying on top of it and I've got all the data that I need. I do have a form for a grade equivalency because we do mastery learning and we don't do traditional A, B, C, D, and F. This form will have the following statement. Great Valley Academy, we employ mastery grading. This means the report card is not always commensurate with where the students are academically. A student who would normally have earned over 90% may receive 2 or a 1 on the first or second trimester on a standard simply because we have not taught all of the aspects of that standard yet. And they have yet to demonstrate mastery in that standard. With this in mind, I have enclosed a more traditional outlook on where said student is currently performing in my class. Please use this information when placing a student for the 9th grade year. And here is the chart that we'll go through for the grade equivalency. I'll look at participation in classwork, essays, projects, and tests. I'll have that for both English and history. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email, use Parent Square. If you want to, you can send snail mail. And again, if you need to, you can send me Morse code. It will take me a little while to decode that, but I will look into it. I hope this has helped. And again, please feel free to contact me. If you are unsure of where my room is, once you go through the office and you turn right, you go past Mr. Potter's room, walk around the corner of Mr. Potter's room. I'm on the back of his room. If you get to Mr. Avalos' room, you've gone too far. Thank you for your time. I'm super excited for this year and looking forward to get to know your students a little bit better.